Hey everybody, I'm Emily Bordes, and I'm going to talk to you about 3 books that have very different plots and themes, but they do have one thing in common, and that is young adult main characters who are strong-willed, independent, and they're also pretty cool. The first book is A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. Ged is a very young wizard. At an early age, he shows a lot of promise for having strong magical powers. He knows it, and everybody else knows it too. Ged lives in a place called Earthsea that is just made up of tons of islands and waterways. Anyway, when Ged is really young, his aunt, who's a witch, teaches him some simple tricks and spells, but Ged's eagerness and overconfidence push him to want to learn more than what his aunt can teach him. So he goes to stay with a wizard who takes Ged under his wing and teaches him a lot more about magic. But even that's not enough. So Ged eventually goes to a school for wizard where he excels. And he learns just so much more about magic. He also makes some friends there, but he also makes kind of an enemy in another boy named Jasper. And Ged and Jasper kind of have this competition going on as to who is more powerful. And it comes to a breaking point when Ged tries to prove to Jasper and to everyone else that he's the most powerful. In doing so, he mistakenly unleashes this evil shadow from another plane. And the shadow attacks Ged, and then it escapes into the world. And when Ged wakes up from this attack, he's horribly scarred on his face and his upper body. And he's emotionally scarred as well. He's humble, he's quiet and withdrawn, and he's got a lot more respect for magic. The other problem is that nobody knows what this shadow is. They don't know how to defeat it. The only thing they do know is that Ged is the only one that could possibly maybe defeat it. So Ged eventually becomes a wizard. He has to leave the safety of the school to go on this long journey that's lonely and dangerous throughout Earthsea to try and find this shadow. On his journey, he runs into dragons, dark powers, strange and evil people, and he also runs into some friends. So, Ged has 2 challenges. One, he has to try to find the shadow, and then 2, if he is able to find the shadow, he has to figure out a way to defeat it. And so that is A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. It is the first book in a trilogy. If you like The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, then you will probably like this book as well. And also similar to J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth, Ursula K. Le Guin has created this fantastical, magical world of Earthsea, in which she's written plenty of books about. So, if you like epic adventures about teens, but you want something a little more realistic than A Wizard of Earthsea, you could try A Blood Red Horse by K.M. Grant. It is also the first book in a trilogy. It is also about young adults that are growing into adulthood that are faced with challenges, scary things. They have to be brave. They have to go on adventures. Both books also have pretty cool animal characters too. I like what it says on the front cover of Blood Red Horse. 2 boys, 1 girl, the adventure of a lifetime. It also has a pretty cool bright red cover that's easy to remember. Blood Red Horse takes place during the Crusades and the time of King Richard, who is also known as Richard the Lionheart from the Robin Hood stories. It focuses on 2 brothers, Gavin and William, a girl named Ellie, who's betrothed to Gavin, the oldest brother, and a very special war horse named Hosanna. So William, Gavin, and Hosanna have to leave their home in England, and they have to leave Ellie and go with William and Gavin's father to go fight in the Crusades. During the Crusades, there are epic battles, sword fights, spy missions, betrayals, horse thievery, all kinds of crazy, scary, exciting things. Not everyone is going to return from the Crusades, and those who do are going to be emotionally and physically scarred. They are not the only ones that are facing troubles. Ellie is having her own set of troubles in the meantime. She's been left alone in England. The man who's supposed to be looking after her is plotting against William and Gavin to try to take their lands, to try to marry Ellie. And Ellie has to try to keep everything calm and just she's hoping that William and Gavin will come home soon. But she doesn't know when. She doesn't know if they're alive. She doesn't know if they're okay. So, in order to find out what happens to William, Gavin, and Ellie, you will have to read Blood Red Horse by K.M. Grant. If you like historical stories that are about teens, but you don't want to read fiction, you could try We've Got a Job, the Birmingham Children's March by Cynthia Livingston. It's a true story based on 4 kids, Audrey, Wash, James, and Arnetta. They are ages 9 through 16. They are faced with real-life problems that only fiction books can allude to in metaphors. These 4 kids are growing up in Birmingham, Alabama in the 1950s and 60s, which is the time of the Civil Rights Movement. It's very dangerous and it's a very scary time. Birmingham is so dangerous that it is sometimes called Bombingham because so many bombs were set off during that time. Birmingham has very strict segregation laws. Even when the Supreme Court declared that segregation was unconstitutional, Birmingham ignored this and they continued to practice segregation. There were a lot of people during this time, including Martin Luther King Jr., that were fighting for equal rights for everybody. And so these 4 young kids, Audrey, James, Wash, and Arnetta, they joined 3,000 to 4,000 other kids on May 2nd, 1963, and they all marched and protested in the Birmingham Children's March. And they had one goal. They had a job. And their job was to get arrested and go to jail. And that sounds very strange to us today. But at the time, they were hoping that if enough kids got arrested and went to jail, it would shed light on all the problems and all the inequality going on in Birmingham, and maybe the rest of America might try to help them. So, you will just be astounded at the brutality, at the hate, at the dysfunction that these kids were facing. It's just unbelievable. I want to show you one picture from the book. It's of a policeman letting a dog attack a teenage boy. And that's just one example of all the bad things that were happening to kids even during this time. It's just appalling. But on the other hand, while all these bad things are happening, these kids are so brave. They're standing up for what they believe in. And so you will just be amazed at what kind of a difference these young adults can make. So if you want to read a book about history, if you want to find out what happens to Audrey, Wash, James, and Arnetta when they march and try to go to jail, you'll have to read We've Got a Job by Cynthia Livingston. It has big print, it's got photos, and it's got cool excerpts with cool quotes and cool facts. I hope at least one of these books piqued your interest, and thank you for watching.